Welcome to another tzuzamen. Hi,
Shalom, Tzili.
Tzipi. Hi, Rabbi Amichai
Thank you for coming.
Lau-Lavie.
Shalom,
Shalom,
Tzipi
shalom.
and Tzili.
בימים טרופים אלה,
No, we're in English.
oh, I'm sorry,
We're
in
in
this,
English.
in
These
this
crazy days.
kind of stormy time, which started a year and 4 months ago, started actually earlier. A year earlier, they got up and decided that everybody is wrong. The Justice Department,
Who are they?
the Likud, and the
The right
religious,
wing in Israel
the right
and
wing
the
in Israel,
Orthodox.
which is okay as long as they don't really change the fabric, the hopes of half of the country. And you look at me at Tzili, that we grew up in Square Dizengoff, and we now travel around and we feel that a lot was taken away and we would like to reclaim everything. Looking at you, you do something that I cannot do and I don't know about Tzili. You came out from the Haredic society, right?
Orthodox, not
Orthodox,
Haredi.
sorry. You started to ask questions, which is wonderful. You probably ask yourself what is wrong where I was then, and you were looking for a new way in a very unbelievable way.
In a very positive way.
And positive and unbelievable. I mean, coming out from conservative, for them,
But let's go back for a
just
second.
the last sentence, and then we'll know that you went back to become a rabbi.
But let's give a little bit background, because first of all, we asked Amichai to come because there's a great film that was made about Amichai's life that called the Sabbath Queen, Shabbat HaMalka. And it tells the story of Amichai personally, and of course, it gives the Amichai philosophy about life. And there's a parallel story between the personal and the big one. So Amichai, tell us a little bit about that first, so we can put it together with what Tzipi is talking about.
You want to hear more about the film?
Yeah, about the
Okay.
film and about you, of course, but we'll start
The
with
film is your journey.
Yeah.
Well, the film, I'm a storyteller, and the film is the creation of a storyteller about me. So we're both in the service of a bigger story. I can tell you briefly that Sabbath Queen, the film that Sandy Dubowski is the director and the creator of, came out, premiered in the Tribeca Film Festival this last June. It has since been in festivals and screenings all over the world. It just extended to 5 weeks in New York City, LA, next San Francisco, Miami. We just had the premiere in Israel, in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv Cinematheque. Super exciting, amazing conversations, a lot
Great
of media
film,
around it.
great important film.
Thank you. The film was 21 years in the making. Sandy Dubowski's first big film was Trembling Before God. It came out in 2000. It was the film about the lives of gay and lesbian Orthodox and Haredi Jews and how
Also
they
excellent,
wrestle.
important film.
Excellent movie. Like that movie changed the conversation. It was a
Right.
shapeshifter in people in the religious world, including my older brother Benny, Rav Benny Lau, who's an Orthodox rabbi who was using the film to get Orthodox rabbis and teachers and families to understand that you can't just say everybody's an abomination. How do we deal with this creatively? Part of why my brother cared is because of me. And so when Sandy wanted me to be in the film 20 years ago, I refused. I was no longer Orthodox. I already started leaving the Orthodox world I came from and looking for solutions and fusions and syntheses that will help me create my kind of Jewishness. But Sandy and I became friends, and he started filming me in the early 2000s, right after 9/11, when I was starting to do Jewish theater and drag and weird Jewish ritual, and he was fascinated, and he started filming, and then continued filming, and then continued filming, and then 20 plus years later, we're like, okay, done. And there's a longer story about why and when the film ended, but basically in September of 2023, the film was done and they were editing it to go to festivals. And then October 7th happened. And I was in Israel within 10 days, the first flight I could get. And I called Sandy from here. I'm from here, from Jerusalem. My mother is here, my siblings, my nephews, many of my family members, everybody in uniform immediately as soon as the reserves began. And I called Sandy and said, the film needs to change. It needs to include something about October 7th and what's going to happen after, because everything in our lives will change. And so the film now includes a very short scene that was shot in Tel Aviv in October, late October. It took us 2 months to edit. And so the film was shot between September 11th and October 7th. And it's my life from being a theater person and a drag queen to becoming a rabbi and a peace activist and some of my controversial decisions. And it's really a movie about the first 2 decades of the 21st century from the perspective of American and Israeli and Jewish and queer and humanitarian, all the hopes of this 21st century, Obama and Trump, gay marriage and anti-legislation. And of course, now the trauma of what's happening in Israel between Palestinians and Israelis and the intra-religious fighting. And I think that what this movie is about at the end of the day is about my option and many other options for a type of Jewishness and Judaism that is feminist and queer and egalitarian and moral and wants to break away from the very fundamentalist, patriarchal, painful Judaism that seems to dominate the mainstream right now, but wasn't always, isn't now the only narrative, and we believe will not be the only narrative, whether it's in the United States or here, very different stakes. And
You
so
know,
that's
yeah, but you know,
so that's the film. I will just say it's extremely successful. We're very proud, and Sandy's very proud. It's going to now be playing for all over the world, and it's an impact campaign of getting people to talk about the film, because really the film is a conversation, is an invitation for conversation.
And I
So-
think
that's
it's not
happening.
only about Judaism. I think in every community where you have um, any orthodoxy or any religious to have conversation and openness about all the other issues, every religion is facing it. So basically, you can carry the torch for every Orthodox person or every closed culture.
but more than that,
And
you actually open the door to people, if they follow the film. So it's always where do you take us? And you do take us and everybody, I think, around the world, never mind what's religious, to look at oneself and ask, as I said before, because we have choices. We have to make choices. We have to analyze the world around us. We have to open up for all ideas, and then we see where do we belong. And we should let everybody choose, right, and find to go right, to go left, as long as they really do the research and ask the questions. And then everything is fine. Because, we talked about Leibovich a few weeks ago. Leibovich, did all the mitzvot of the Torah, but he didn't believe in the God. Is it possible? Right, Tzili? Remember? He didn't really believe in God, and he was against the occupation. He was totally about humanity, very strict with the mitzvot. So he made his own choice. And
but
you too. I mean, it's amazing if we carry out from your film that each one of us has the power to change.
I think that the film has many departments, and I remember the first film that Sami made.
Yeah.
This was it was very hard to show this film then because everything was very tight and very close. And he really touched something very painful, and it was beautiful how he presented it. And I don't remember big audiences watching it. It was in very small places and very small crowded, and everybody were talking about it quietly. But it did serve the community in a very strong,
But it was
powerful
about
way.
fear.
But it was not only about fear, it was
Basically,
about the need to
get
keep your
love to God and God
to keep your relations with God
Yes.
and with who you are and with your family and with your peers and everybody else. So many years went by, and we see gay marriage, and we see children, and we see so many open-minded, and boom, many doors were shut. And you come out with your story, and I think that you weave so many things in one big story that it has to be used in a very smart way, especially now that the doors are shut in our faces in every front. And if we take it personally to the Jewish world, uh, we have so many conversations of how to be part of the Jewish community in a way that each one can participate without pushing it away or being pushed by others. And there's so much room to so many versions in order to be part of it and not to push people away. So you basically paved the way for so many ways of looking at things.
But where
You
is your
basically
loyalty?
carry a very big part now on your
Right.
shoulders.
Yes.
But I know that I know you, so I trust you to carry it well. But I think it's a good way to use it for educational and supportive, emotional, social, venues. It's very important, Phil.
Where is your loyalty?
My brother always asks me that question. He talks about the Hebrew word ne'emanut.
Yeah.
And and I think first of all, my initial ne'emanut, my loyalty is to where I'm from. I'm from not just Israel, but I'm from a long line of Jews and Jewish rabbis and Jewish leaders. And I feel like in this relay race, in this what we call Merot Shlichim, I am a shaliach. I am holding the
Torch.
baton that I got from my ancestors. I chose to take it on. For many years, I was like, screw it, I'm off it. I'm not into it. Doesn't have room for me around the table. Orthodoxy felt like a place that didn't welcome me if I was openly queer or humanist or leftist or whatever. But then I figured, no, of course, it's on me to take and run with it. So my ne'emanut, my loyalty is to where I'm from. But at the same time, it's to my great grandchildren and to us, whoever's in listening right now, because I feel like I feel privileged. I got the entire Jewish database shoved
The
into my system,
knowledge.
the knowledge, the access, the ability to look at a page of Talmud or page of Jewish law and say, okay, I know what's here. I know the vocabulary. I see many of my peers choosing to translate it into what I consider racist and genocidal and hateful and fear-based and misogynistic and homophobic, legitimate Jewish views that say this is what we inherited. We're thousands of years old. Some of our baggage is that old. And, Judaism includes it. It includes the fact that you women are second-class citizens. You can't be included in my minyan, in my quorum of 10 adults who I can pray with. You cannot be a rabbi or a judge. You're a woman, right? We grew up on that. Well, thank goodness there's feminism, and that misogyny and that non-humanistic attitude is considered by many to be a thing of the past. 100 years is not a lot since the suffragettes, so this is happening slowly. But because of feminism, I am who I am. And because there are more people like Sandy and the people who threw the bricks at Stonewall 50 years ago, I can be out there and say, yeah, the Torah says that I'm an abomination. And Jewish law might say that people who choose to fall in love, choose to live who we are as same-sex lovers don't have room at the table. And we say, no, Judaism changes. Halacha, Jewish law, comes from the words lelechet, meaning we walk, we evolve, we change. If you don't evolve, you stay in a museum. I don't want to live in a museum. Judaism is not a
Why
museum.
they're afraid of moving forward?
So I have a lot of respect for this attitude. For instance, um, I always say I'm such a, reformer and thing, but there's some things I like, and I don't want them to change. Like there's a recipe for chicken soup that my mother gave me. You don't change that recipe, right? And when I get up in the morning, I have my morning routine, my yoga, my meditation. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I like my routine. Don't mess my routine, right? I make granola, really good granola. I like my granola. Don't mess with my granola. So the people who are ultra Orthodox or Orthodox Jews basically are saying we are the custodians of the sacred. It is our job to make sure that what we inherited, halacha, Torah, Jewish this way, Jewish that way, a black hat this way, thing, we are preserving it. And if you mess with it, you queer liberals, you're going to mess it up. Don't mess up my grandma's chicken recipe. So I respect that. But I don't want to live my life with everything behind closed doors. I'll tell you a story. I was in Mea Shearim this week in the ultra Orthodox neighborhood in Jerusalem. There's a better story if you want. I'll tell you about why I ended up there and what happened. But as I'm walking there, it's raining really, really hard. I did not have an umbrella because whatever. So I had this memory of one of the reasons why I took off my kippah and became non-Orthodox when I was in my late teens. We were living in Jerusalem, and I used to take long walks in the city, and it was raining, it was winter, and I was walking around, and I'm seeing all these Hasidic Jews with streimelach, like with these fur hats, and over the fur hats in the rain on Shabbat, they have garbage bags,
Plastic.
right? Like
Garbage
plastic
bag. What
bags,
do you mean
like no,
plastic?
but
Garbage
because it's
bag.
big enough, the garbage bag was big enough. It's
Yeah.
more than a shopping bag, and I'm like, you guys, you're walking around on Shabbat with a fur hat, which is like our Ukrainian ancestors wore because that's what you wear when you're cold. It's made of fox. It's going to dry. And you put plastic on top of the hat. And I was like, this is so symbolic of how you live with siagim, with like this, you don't do this, you don't do this. Everything is like you're protecting yourself from life. And I'm like, ugh, because they're covering their fur hats with plastic, I'm taking my kippah off. I'm like, I'm done with all the prohibitions and the extra fences of protecting the sacred. Anyway, I remember that story, and I'm walking around like 4 days ago and thinking, ugh, they're so smart that they have the plastic over there. If I had a plastic bag right now, I'd wear it. Anyway, so I was laughing at myself. But I really respect, honestly, you were talking about choices. There are lots of choices. There are many Jews, including people I know and love, who choose to live a Judaism in which women are second-class citizens. They don't say it that way. They don't see it that way. They see it
Is
as a
this what God
continuity.
wanted? Is this what God wanted?
For them, yes.
What do you mean for them? It's either there is references, there is written.
God is so many different things. God is like, my synagogue in New York, I coined the term God optional, meaning when you come to pray with me, when you light Hanukkah candles, maybe you just lit Hanukkah candles, maybe with a blessing, without a blessing. Do you really sing there like, wow, I'm inviting the creator of the world, the mystery of nature, the secret of all things to be with me while I light Hanukkah candles? No, you're saying the thing because you say the thing. Baruch atah Adonai.
No,
So
but
when I say people,
when I say modernity,
yeah.
today, I really mean, I really believe that he will protect the people I ask him to protect.
Wait, so let me
I
ask you a
want to
question.
protect a lot of people.
Tzipi, when I say modernity in the morning, it's less about I am talking to whatever God is, and for me, she's more of a she than a he. We can talk about that, more the mother than the
Okay, for
father.
me too.
Sababa. But like it's less about, hey, thank you, mother of the world, for giving me another day. It's more like I'm taking the time to say gratitude. I'm starting my day and saying, okay, oh my God, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. No, 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 no. Begin the day before you reach for your phone with gratitude. Now, whether your gratitude to God, to yourself, to your higher power, to your grandmother, to your lover, whatever, to your AI assistant, kol tov. But just like the point is not always that, but God inside. And so when I say God optional, I invite people to cultivate a relationship with the big secrets of the universe. You talked about Leibovich. Leibovich had a very specific way of living a Jewish life that wasn't spiritual, but it was loyal. practical. For me, the Leibovitz way is like the phone book. I don't want to live my life with a phone book. I want to live my life with love. So the Leibovitz way is not my way, but I respect it. It's his choice. My ultra-Orthodox cousins, it's their choice. My cousins who are settlers, who are at the forefront of the settler movement, who think we should be in Gaza, who thinks that Arabs are subhuman, who thinks that the land of Israel is more important than human lives, I fundamentally disagree with them. Do I respect their choice? Yes. Do I want their choice to prevail? No. I will do everything I can to present a Judaism that is
What do you
first
mean by
and
respect?
But you know,
humanistic.
it
I
always
can't, if I want to respect, if I want them to respect me, because I'm a pluralist, I
right
have to
to
respect them.
respect
I
them.
disagree with them
Yeah, but
fundamentally.
if you take a park, what does it mean? What they want? It's terrible.
No, you now translate what he's talking about is the basic value of accepting. You know, it always takes me
It's like
back.
the battered women who all the time protect her husband and find reasons why she's the only one and why he has this, he has that, and she has a chemla, compassion.
Compassion.
You know,
It always
is he
takes me
right?
to the place where basically we're full of protective ways to protect ourselves, our emotions, our being, and which comes a lot of fear. Everybody is afraid if they break it, something might happen to them. So it's basically about us. Some use God, some use other forces, but it's about us. We want to be protected. We want to be okay. We don't want to get hurt. We don't want our loved ones to get hurt. We're afraid. And I think that
It cannot control you. It cannot
fear,
let control you.
but fear takes over, especially when they pump it nonstop. So it's really the name that we give it and the translation that we give it, I think it's secondary. And call it whatever you like. It scares others when we are free to choose whatever it like.
Totally.
It scares others.
Totally.
Because the system, call it patriarchy, call it the old system, likes to have power the way things were. They don't want too many women to have too many opinions, because then the system as was, which is certainly not celebrating women's liberation, is judged and changed.
But it's also convenient.
It's
Of course,
For the
Zeta
men, it's
Comedian
convenient.
truth.
it's a big
נכון.
tool.
So we are in a paradigm shift. We in the West, we in the Jewish world, the last 100 or so years, women's role, the sexual revolution, the body, digital, Israel,
AI.
right? If you go in AI, like if you go, if you think about, I go and think about my great grandparents, your great grandparents, like the Judaism of my great grandparents in Poland and England and Amsterdam in the 1924 and then 1854. And now, wow, what a shift. And we're in the middle of this shift. And I think the only way for us to handle this shift well is to find the balance between the baby and the bathwater. There are things that are the baby. That's what's worth preserving. In the relay race, like Shabbat, right? The movie is called Sabbath Queen, which I love, and for a bunch of reasons.
Right.
But the notion that Shabbat, that the gift of Shabbat is a way for the human soul to recharge, for the family to sit around the table, for the people who work for you to not work, for you to not work. Now, what you do with Shabbat, you light candles, don't light candles, you use electricity, you drive, you don't drive, we can talk about it. But the essence, the baby, is that there is a thing called Shabbat, which means stop and means sit and means stop working, be a human being, not a human doing. That's the baby. Now, the bathwater is the plata, the this, the that, when it starts, like all
Elevate.
the mitzvahs around it, which like it has to be this way. You know what? It doesn't have to be this way.
That's right.
Chill. And
But
so that's, I think, the balance on everything. What's the baby? What's the bathwater? And you know what? There's plenty of bathwater that we need to let go, because we're not in the Bronze Age and because we have so many privileges. We're in the middle of a moral crisis for the world Jews, like what's happening right now in Gaza, what's happening with the occupation in Palestine, what's happening with Jews torn over these opinions. and the pain of Palestinians and the pains of Israelis. I just
The
spent
Israelis don't care about that.
well, we have to
Don't
care
care.
about that. We have to care about that. I was last night, was the 8th night of Hanukkah. I was in Hostage Square here in Tel Aviv, and we lit candles and we sang songs. And I asked, and I'm there with hostage families. I've been there very often. And of course, we're holding the pain of our families. Of course, we're holding the unbearable knowledge that we're in day 452 and we don't know what's happening and thing. But they don't want to even mention that there are hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people in Gaza without heat,
Intense with
without food,
rain.
and
Yeah.
without knowledge of what's the future. And there are so many killed who are innocents, and that the pain is our pain. Unless we understand that we're in the same pain, we're
Yeah.
not going to solve
I
this.
agree
What
with
I don't
Empathy
understand is how
has to be taught.
I don't understand how come people with compassion, they have the compassion up to a certain line, and when it crosses this line, it doesn't exist. I don't
Listen,
get it. I
small
don't
story.
get it.
When my daughter, she had to have, how you call it, kaftorim, באוזניים. It's like something in your ear, right? She was 5, 6. We went to the hospital, Bikur Cholim, in Jerusalem, and it was Hanukkah, like now. And then 2 women dressed like what I can call ultra-religious, with those donuts, with sufganiyot, right? And they gave to my daughter and to the lady, the young girl. And then she said, they are not from us, and they didn't give it. They were Arabs.
Well,
So, that was, I don't know, many years ago. My point now that we are so afraid of the way our mind is engineered. And if you think about it, in the ultra-religious society, the engineering of the mind is like you cannot take it away from their existence.
But you can, Tzipi. I mean, I'm hearing your story about the jelly donuts in the hospital and the fact that we come from people who, for many, many, many generations, had very good reason to be afraid of the others. And then, the tzuzamen is just us, and the others are the
Try to
others.
build a country if we are afraid.
Besed, listen, first of all, this is where we come from. This is our DNA. We have a DNA of being exiled and being a minority and being persecuted and being attacked for being Jewish for many, many, many generations. That doesn't go away. Intergenerational trauma is real, and it is built into the law. It is built into how we close the door and keep our intimacy. I get it. And it means there is a Jew and there's a non-Jew, and there's a hierarchy, and there's a chosen people, and there's all these memes. Okay. But then came modernity. And a few hundred years ago, modernity started happening. We left the ghetto. Mendelssohn in Berlin, other people otherwhere. You could be both a Jew and a human being. There were civil rights and human rights. And then Dreyfus didn't work so well. And then the United States. And now we have Israel. Okay. So now we'd have to figure out how are we balancing the sense of, I love my Jewishness. It's unique, it's ancient, it's smart. I have a toolkit that I inherited from Shabbat to Modeh Ani in the morning, to how I celebrate my culture, my mythology, whatever God is, what happens when my baby is born or my father is dead. There are tools. I love the toolbox. It doesn't make me better than or more chosen than my Muslim, Christian, or Hindu friend. It means I'm different. And mine is chosen for mine, and hers is chosen for hers. Now, that is something that more and more Jews have to learn. And because once you say, I'm better than you, then you say,
then
you
it's
are
done.
not as holy as me, and then we're stuck. So this, why am I saying that? For me, growing up and realizing that I'm gay meant I had two options. Either I'm rejecting Judaism, or I'm beginning to embrace a Judaism that evolves to include homosexuals, which until very recently, and in many cases still, is taboo. Same as with feminism. And I was lucky to find reform and conservative and reconstructionist and Israeli secular and Bialik type people who are like, of course there can be a modern Jew, and we change things, baby bathwater. And so if I can do it with my gay identity, how do we do it with bigger things? Like the notion that, yes, there is a racist Judaism we inherited. We need to let that go. And we need to say, Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tselem. All humans were created equally in divine image. Palestinian, Israeli, man, woman, the
Sporadic.
Philippines. We have to change that. And until we change that, we're stuck with a supremacist ideology which prioritizes some kind of Jews over everybody else. Right now, this supremacist Judaism is in the Israeli government and in the Israeli rabbinate and in the Israeli education system, and
Yes.
it's toxic. And it's going to take the rest of our lifetimes and our children's lifetime to insist on a Jewishness that isn't racist, that isn't homophobic, that isn't misogynist. Even if that's part of our history, it is now bathwater. That's not the baby. And that is where there is like, I don't want to say chas v'shalom milchemet achim, a civil war, but there is a real cultural conflict here. And it's going to resolve
There's a very strong
face to
division.
face, conversation by conversation, heart to heart. I'll give you an example. My older brother, Benny Lau, right? An Orthodox rabbi, very much so, who met me. I went to him as a young gay man. And I said, Benny, you're a rabbi, you're my older brother. You need to know about this. How are you going to handle this with your community? Because he's such a mensch, he listened. And then he saw Sandy's movie and he became an activist, not just for gay rights. And he is the one who came out and said, Ha'aron ze mavet, the closet is death. We cannot stigmatize our gay children in the Orthodox world. And as a feminist, he brought a woman rabbi to be in his community. That's part of the movie as well. He's still very much Orthodox. He's still very much, he's a religious Zionist who's now wrestling with the horrors of religious Zionism, but he's somebody who's opened up. So that's the work, to slowly not reject the Jewishness we inherited, but to reject some of the tenets of the Jewishness we inherited. And, whatever doesn't give us moral dignity, to see each other as equally sacred and holy and worthy of justice, this gives me pause.
But if we simplifies it, it's basically love against fear, because Ben is your brother, he loves you. So
I think
it's
basically how
when you use love and not fear, so then you can embrace, and it at least opens a conversation of something that can have a place in the conversation.
It's a boomerang effect, I feel, because the way we were taught the Bible in school, me and Tzili and my grandchildren today, doesn't bring us closer to understand the values that you're talking about. Absolutely not.
We have a major gap in the education system. Massive. Yeah. Me too, right? I found the kind of Yadut, Jewishness that I am like, oh, wow, it's so good in my 20s, right? And now, for instance, I have a blog that I'm in almost the end of called Below the Bible Belt, where Below the Bible Belt is my way of reading the Bible every single day, a chapter. There are 929 chapters in the Bible. If you read the Hebrew Bible, if you read one every day over 3.5 years, you reread the whole Tanakh. I decided to do this blog, and I write a public blog on it, so I can actually get to know the Bible and talk back to the Bible. So right now we're in the book of Eov, the book of Job, and it's been 3 years. I have 6 more months to go, and then I would have written my commentary on the Bible. I am learning so much because Tzipi, I went to yeshivot and I went to religious education. Nobody taught me to read the Bible critically, to know that the Bible was written as a response to the trauma of the first destruction of the temple in the 6th century BCE, that the Bible, which is our blueprint as the Jewish people, is actually a text that is really grounded in trauma and has the North Star for some of the biggest gifts and biggest problems in our reality. So by knowing the text, I can create the next chapter and I can comment and
somebody else. Yeah, but we talk.
And more people need to do that.
I know it's not connected, but I was on the street yesterday and I saw small kids, which is nice, going with these candles made out of we went like this. They up till today. In this case, it's okay not to ask, why do you need it? Why? So we don't have to, like you said, just destroy everything. But we have to somehow get to the pupik, to the belly button of what you call the baby. And
But okay, but you know, I love this conversation is going in a million places. I guess that's good.
that's
Hanukkah,
me. And I'm not, how you call it, that you don't have,
linear.
how do you call it when you don't have the
ADD.
ADD? I don't.
Well, we call it Talmudic. That's how a Talmudic page goes. We go all over the place, and somehow we get somewhere. Hanukkah, which is really just over basically today,
Yeah.
there are so many ways of telling what's the story of Hanukkah about. It could be about the story of a civil war in Jewish history. People don't teach you that.
Oh,
But the Maccabim, the Chashmonaim, were basically Smotrich. And they killed people like us because we were more Hellenizers, we were westernized, and we did not live by a very strict code of Jewish law. So Hanukkah, on one level, is not the mighty Jews who fought the Greeks. It is a civil war in our history, which is why by the time
Right.
the rabbis in the Talmud tell the story of Hanukkah, they don't talk about the war. They talk about they make up the story about the little miracle of the light that ended for 8 days, for which there is no record. And Hanukkah is likely an origin of the solstice, of the longest night of the year, in the middle of winter. What do all people do? Light fire, come together, eat fried foods, give gifts. We pretty much assume that Hanukkah and Christmas and all these winter holidays come from the longest night of the year. And then they get different stories. So today, you're going to get people who are in the hostage square last night, people who built a menorah from shrapnel and missile
yes.
leftovers,
Right.
and they are justifying Gaza. They're justifying what's going on. They are using the Maccabeen story as few against the many, and this is a story of survival, and it's all about war, and only war will save us. That's one way of telling Hanukkah. Another way of telling Hanukkah is this is the victory of light against darkness, because the nights are getting darker, but the nights will get shorter. And Hanukkah is about finding hope. And the miraculous is what we do with it. So you can choose to tell Hanukkah as a fundamentalist, messianic, religious story that celebrates intolerance slash freedom. And we can say, look, there are problematic aspects to Hanukkah.
But this
It
is
does
about everything. It's you choose the point of view, and
You
we see
choose
things
right,
differently.
and you can't whitewash, you can't look away from the history. But again, the question is, what do I want to tell? What do I want to focus on? Because I don't want to focus on hate. I don't want to focus on perpetuating conflict. I don't want to celebrate violence. I want to make peace. I want to be in a place where we can imagine what right now in Israel, shalom is a dirty word. Peace is
Right.
a dirty word. We're
And
like, oh my God, you're so naive.
לשמאלני זה בוגד.
נכון. And I'm like, don't call me a שמאלני, don't call me a lefty, call
Left.
me a peacenik, call me איש שלום. אני שוחר שלום. I
But
believe in
it's,
peace.
it's so specific. Where do you start?
Mhm. I
That's
think
a very good question.
I think we could do what we call the program Perach at the university. That you know, like eighth
what,
grade go
yeah,
to third grade after we train them, not one way, but just to the basic values. Not be religious, not be religious. No, some humanistic, universal value. Actually, if you look at the Ten Commandments, it has everything, no? That's almost all we have to know. Ten
Uh,
Commandments.
it's not bad.
it's a big
I'm thinking of a few ways, So one of the ways that I'm really focusing on. So I'm just going back to the film. The film was called Sabbath Queen, Shabbat Malka. It's a great title.
Yeah,
The
unbelievable.
first title was Rabbi. And
Yeah.
then about a few years ago, they're like, eh. So it became Sabbath Queen. It's called Sabbath Queen because Lab Shul, our community in New York, once a month, we do a big Shabbat celebration called Sabbath Queen, which I named because I love the idea of the Sabbath as a queen. Like that's a
Yeah.
Jewish invention. It's a mystical invention that imagining God not as a male but as a female. She's really the queen of time. She shows up on
And all
Friday.
women are queen.
All people are, right? It's
All
beyond.
people are queen.
I have my
And there's something about welcoming the queen. So anyway, so that's our Friday night. But for part of my career, I did drag. and I was a drag queen. And Hadassah Gross, Rebbitzin, let's not talk about it, whatever, it was great. She gave me the permission to be ballsy and to be loud and to be Jewish and gay publicly. And after 10 years of doing Hadassah, I figured I don't need the scaffolding. I can do it without the wig, without the makeup, without the vodka, because I would have to drink a couple of vodka tonics for her to show up. My liver was a priority too. So I stopped Hadassah. Anyway, so the film is called Sabbath Queen, and it's great, and it's about reimagining Jewish life. And so I started hosting Friday night dinners. I always do it. I always do Shabbat. But I now do Sabbath Queen feasts. We've done it in many festivals around the film. And I'm using the Shabbat table as an opportunity to cultivate tools of resilience and resistance. Jewish, not Jewish, believe in God, don't believe in God, I don't care. First thing you do, you unplug your phone into Shabbat. These are dinners with no phones.
Tzili.
Very important.
For a few hours.
I'm
For a
addicted.
few, I know you are, which is why Shabbat Queen says unplug. And then you light a candle for peace, a candle for hope. Everybody looks good in candles. Shh, take a moment to breathe and use ancient technology. And then we sing together. I don't care if we sing Shalom Aleichem or the sun will come out tomorrow or Imagine. People singing together around a table. Wow, right? Let's create a choir. Let's hear each other. And then we bless the wine. Again, God, no God, substance, maybe it's, whatever weed, but like we need something to like quiet the mind and be together. Wine is the Jewish medicine. Then we break bread, challah. We feed each other, right? We bake bread together. Then we say thank you at the end of the meal. Wow, gratitude. We bless each other. We make love at the end of the night, however that looks like. So Friday night is one great place to start to remind us that we have tools that are Jewish and are used in a new way for us to be sacred together. That's one. Another one that I'm really focusing on, and that's also in the film, is completely reimagining the bar mitzvah, right? Bar bat mitzvah at age 13, kids are initiated into the adult collective. I don't want to speak badly, but in most cases, it's like not really the best use of initiation. We're not really teaching young people to be critical thinkers, to appreciate their tradition, to become storytellers. They go to the Torah and they mumble something. It's both in Hebrew, in the States, wherever. So we've been working at Lab Shul on something called storytelling, which is my project of reimagining Torah and reimagining ritual. And we're doing a lot of that with 12-year-olds and their families, reimagining what it's like to be part of the Jewish story, whether both your parents Jewish or not, whether you're fully Jewish, whatever the hell that means, or Jewish. But how are you a human being? How at age 13 can you ask yourself three big questions? Where am I from? What's important for me? Who do I want to become? So that is one way to begin the conversation deeply. And I will just say, for the last few years, we've started doing this, what we call B mitzvah, because bar or bat is gendered and B is everybody. We've started doing it with people who are 65 plus. And it's not about having a B mitzvah. It's about taking a time and saying, here I am. I'm 65, I'm 70, my life is shifting. I'm becoming older, but can I become an elder? How can I take a
Question stands. Yep.
same questions, but you're a little wiser. And then what happens if you ask this when you turn 40 or 50? So this project of reimagining the rites of passage is something I'm really focusing on a lot in New York with my community, and I really want to bring it to Israel.
By the way,
It's really a restart plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last week I sat with my two grandsons. One is almost 16 and the other one 13 in the summer. And I asked them, so how would you like to be? Like, what would you like to be as a person? What qualities you will appreciate in yourself? And how do you like to be perceived by others? In a genuine way, you know?
Good question.
What do you want people to see in you? And it was silence in the beginning, but just the question how they would like to define themselves. It was very interesting.
This is a question that needs to be asked every once in a while. And the answers are different.
Yeah.
But Amichai, let's stop here. We'll do more.
Why?
Because
Okay. Because my grandsons are coming to the lobby here.
Anyway, thank you.
Listen,
How much
something enormous.
You have a big journey ahead of you, all of us.
Yeah, but
And
wait. Just one sentence.
okay.
Okay. Is it possible that when you reach the next step that you find, which create tools that are more clear and can reach more people, come back to us?
Of course.
Anytime.
Of course.
Let's do a Shabbat dinner
I
in
can
New York.
answer it.
Talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do Shabbat. What I will do with my phone?
Oh,
Your phone will thank you for having a few hours
right.
quiet.
Absolutely.
You will look into each other's eyes. We will be busy talking and drinking. Can't wait. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom
shalom.
v'shalom v'sheyeh shalom.
And see you all next week.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.